The sky turned orange as smoke rose above the hills in the distance. Birds scattered, trees shook. A loud rumble followed. The ground cracked open in small lines near the village border. The alien children stopped playing. Their ears twitched. Their large black eyes looked toward the noise. Something was coming. Something big. In the middle of the chaos, a small boy ran barefoot through the dust. His name was Leo. His face was dirty, but his eyes were clear and wide. He had been hiding behind a junk pile, collecting broken parts for a project no one believed in. But now, all that didn't matter. The ground was shaking. The sky was breaking. Something terrible was on its way. The alien village was built from scrap metal, wires, wood, and old tech thrown away by the richer planets. The people who lived there had thin arms, purple skin, and long ears. They were not warriors. They were farmers. They grew what little they could from dry alien soil and traded it for clean water. But now, even the crops were dying. This war had not yet reached them, but its shadow had. No one knew who started the war. It came from the stars, burning ships, and leaving holes in cities. The only thing known was this: machines had turned against life. Food lines were cut. Energy grids destroyed. Rich colonies sealed themselves off. And the poor villages like this one were left alone to starve. Leo was not from this world. His escape pod had crashed there months ago. The aliens had found him half buried in sand, weak and shivering. They didn't speak his language, but they gave him water. They gave him a blanket. That was enough. He stayed. And in return, he tried to help. He didn't have much. Only his mind. Only his hands. Only trash. He spent every day walking through the broken fields, collecting anything he could carry: bent rods, shattered drones, half-dead batteries. The villagers laughed at first. Some called him the trash boy. Others called him the tiny builder. But he didn't stop. His fingers were always dirty. His nails always black. He worked in silence, building something behind his small hut. No one asked what it was. No one cared. Today was different. The sky wasn't just burning, it was screaming. Ships from the war passed overhead, so fast the clouds split behind them. The villagers ran into their shelters. Mothers clutched their young. The crops were already dry, but now they were on fire. The last food they had was turning to ash. The smell of smoke and melted metal filled the air. Leo stood in the middle of the road, his arms full of wires. His eyes locked on the flames. A young alien girl ran toward him. Her name was Yura. She was the first to feed him when he crashed. Now she looked terrified. "Leo, come, you'll die out here." She screamed, but Leo didn't move. He dropped the wires and grabbed her hand. "Come with me," he said. They ran back to his hut. Inside, the Invention sat still. It looked like a twisted pile of junk copper plates, small fans, rusted gears, an old reactor core, and a dozen blinking lights that did nothing. It didn't look like a machine. It looked like a dream built by a child. But Leo had tested it. Every night, quietly, secretly, he believed it could work. He pressed the green switch. Nothing happened. Yura stared at him with fear and confusion. "This won't save us," she whispered. But Leo just nodded. "It will," he said. The lights turned red, then yellow, then bright blue. A loud hum filled the room. The ground under the machine started to vibrate. A warm wave of energy pushed outward, then came the wind. And the smell of something new: wet soil, living roots. Growth. Outside, the flames slowed. The dry ground cracked open again, but this time, green shoots began to rise. Real plants. Real food. The Invention had turned junk into a life-boosting engine. It had drawn energy from the sky, water from the air, and pushed it into the land. The villagers stepped out of their shelters and stared at the miracle with wide eyes. For the first time in weeks they felt hope. Yura held Leo's hand tighter. "What is this thing?" she asked. Leo smiled and pointed to the machine. "Just trash," he said. "But smart trash." The children laughed. The elders wept. The purple hills slowly turned green again. And the sky, once red with fire, now glowed with a soft light. The war was still far from over. But for this village, the fight to survive had just begun. The green fields didn't last long. Within 2 days, the strange energy from Leo's invention began to fade. The plants that had shot up quickly stopped growing. The leaves turned yellow. The roots dried again. Something was missing. The villagers gathered near the machine, confused and afraid. They didn't want to lose the miracle they just got back. Leo sat beside the machine and stared at it. He didn't speak. Yura sat with him. She watched his hands as he opened the side panel and checked the coils. The heat from the machine had cracked some of the plastic. A few wires had melted. The battery was too weak. He knew it wasn't going to last forever. But he had hoped it would last longer than this. More villagers came, asking questions. Can it be fixed? Can it grow food again? Is it safe? Leo didn't answer at first. Then he stood up and pointed to the hills beyond the village. "I need more parts," he said. "Better ones." The people looked at each other. That place was dangerous. The war machine sometimes passed through there, but they had no choice. If they wanted food, they had to help. The next morning, a group of 5 villagers followed Leo out of the village. Yura insisted on joining them. She carried a pack filled with tools, water, and rags. Leo carried his satchel of wires and his notebook. They walked in silence past burned trees and crashed. Drones. The wind blew hot. The sky above them was dull gray. It felt like the world was holding its breath. At the edge of a ruined outpost, they found broken towers and heaps of old tech. Leo's eyes lit up. This was what he needed. The others stood watch while he climbed through the wreckage. He pulled apart panels, tore out boards, and stripped wires from fallen machines. His hands moved fast, but his face stayed calm. Yura helped him carefully wrap the wires and pack them into bags. Suddenly, a loud whirring sound echoed through the metal. Everyone froze. A large machine stepped out from behind a broken wall. It had long metal legs, glowing red eyes, and a barrel on one arm. One of the villagers gasped. "Hunter drone," he whispered. They all ducked behind the ruins, holding their breath. The machine scanned the area slowly, turning its head side to side. Leo whispered to Yura, "Stay low, don't move." The machine turned in their direction. One of the villagers stepped on a metal plate. It clanged. The drone turned instantly and raised its arm. A red beam lit up. Leo grabbed a rusted shield from the ground and held it in front of them. The drone fired. Sparks flew as the blast hit the shield. The heat pushed them back. But they were still alive. One of the villagers threw a metal pipe to the side. The sound drew the drone's attention away. It walked toward the noise. Leo knew this was their chance. "Run," he whispered. They dashed back across the field. Clutching the bags, the machine didn't chase them. It stood still, confused by the sounds. Within minutes, they were far from the wreckage and out of range. Back in the village, everyone gathered as Leo unpacked the parts. He laid them out in rows and examined each piece. The coils were stronger. The power cell was bigger. The wiring was cleaner. He smiled for the first time in days. "This will work," he said. "Better than before." Yura squeezed his arm. "I believe you," she said. That night, Leo worked while others slept. He opened the core of his machine and replaced the weak parts. The tools clicked and hissed under his fingers. Sparks flew as wires met metal. His hands were sore, but he didn't stop. He believed in what he was building. He believed it could feed everyone. Not just once, but always. By morning, the new version of the machine stood taller. It hummed with a steady pulse. The light was no longer shaky. It was deep blue, smooth and warm. The villagers stood around in silence, watching. Leo pressed the button. The light spread across the soil again. The dry dirt soaked in the energy. Then it began to move. Tiny shoots pushed through, faster and greener than before. The villagers cheered. They laughed and hugged each other. One elder knelt and touched the new sprouts. "Real roots," she whispered. "Strong ones." Leo looked tired, but happy. His invention had not only worked, it had improved. And in that moment, they all saw him not as a boy from another world, but as one of their own. The crops grew faster than before. Within just a week, the fields were green again. Corn-like stalks waved in the wind. Strange purple fruits hung from low branches. The children laughed as they chased glowing insects between the tall plants. The village smelled of fresh life. It had not smelled like this in years. Leo stood near the edge of the field, holding his notebook. He scribbled notes about growth speed, light strength, and energy draw. Yura stood beside him, holding a strange fruit in her hand. "We can eat this tonight," she said. Leo smiled and nodded. "Test one," he said. "Let's see if it's safe." The villagers trusted his words now. They followed his advice like they once followed their elders. The elders watched from their raised platforms. They whispered to one another about Leo's gift. "He has turned junk into life." One said. "Maybe he was sent to save us," said another. But not everyone was pleased. Some villagers were afraid of the machine. What if it breaks again? They said, what if it brings more machines from the war? The fear was small, but it was growing. Late that night, Leo sat by the machine. Again, he checked every wire and every coil. He used a small brush to clean dust from the panel. He wasn't sure why he felt uneasy. Something didn't feel right. He stared into the blue glow and tried to listen. The hum was steady, but there was a new clicking sound under it. Something was changing deep inside the device. Yura brought him food and sat quietly beside him. "You think something's wrong," she said. Leo nodded. "The machine is working better than before," he said. "But the energy core is getting hotter." He opened the back panel and let her feel the heat. "It's pulling more power than before." "I didn't program that," Yura frowned. "Is it dangerous?" Leo looked at the machine and stayed silent. The next morning, villagers gathered for the first full harvest. The fruits were rich, the leaves thick, the air was heavy with sweet smells. They cooked together, songs were sung, elders danced. Children played drums made from empty fuel cans. For the first time in months, no one spoke of war. They spoke only of food and joy and peace. Suddenly, the machine gave a loud crack. Everyone froze. A bright spark jumped from its side. The humming stopped. A long silence followed. Then came a grinding noise, slow and deep. Smoke rose from the back panel. Leo rushed forward. He waved his arms to keep others away. "Don't touch it," he shouted. He pulled open the casing and saw the damage. A power coil had melted. The villagers whispered. Some backed away. "It's going to explode," someone cried. "It's cursed," another said. Panic spread quickly. Leo reached for his tools. Yura ran to help. Together, they pulled wires free, shut valves, and removed hot cores with metal tongs. Steam hissed as they worked. The smell of burned copper filled the air. But the machine didn't explode. It went quiet. Leo sat down hard. On the ground, his arms were shaking. Yura sat beside him. "We stopped it," she said, "just in time." Leo nodded. "But we can't turn it on again. Not until I rebuild it with better controls." The villagers watched, unsure whether to cheer or cry. The food was saved. But the miracle machine was now still. That evening, The elders came to speak with Leo. They asked many questions. Is it safe? Can it be repaired? Will it hurt us later? Leo answered honestly. Yes, it's safe now. Yes, I can repair it. No, it won't hurt you if we don't rush. They listened. Some believed him. Others still feared what they didn't understand. But they agreed to give him time. Yura helped him move the machine into a shelter. It sat like a sleeping beast. Under a tarp. Leo worked every day, rewiring, adjusting, upgrading. He added vents to cool the core. He built new safety locks. The parts were few, but his mind was sharp. He knew this wasn't just about farming anymore. The machine had started something larger than food. One night, while Leo was working, Yura asked him a question. What if others hear about this? What if they come to take it? Leo paused. He hadn't thought about that. The war-torn world beyond their hills was still full of hunger. If others found out about his machine, they might not come with thanks. They might come with weapons. The machine now rested under a thick cover, hidden behind walls of scrap metal and stacked crates. Leo had sealed the shelter himself with old door locks, metal bars, and rusted panels. No one but Yura was allowed inside. Every wire had been checked. Every tube had been replaced. But even with the improvements, Leo knew it was still not ready. For what might come next, food continued to grow in the fields. The energy from the last activation had soaked deep into the soil. Plants now grew even in the rocky edges of the village. The people had more than they needed. Baskets overflowed. Children gave fruit to elders. Laughter was common again. But Leo kept his eyes on the horizon. He knew something was coming. He spent his nights drawing maps in the dirt and marking the waking, the sky. He watched for signals in the stars. He listened to the strange sounds coming from broken radios. One night, while working on an old transmitter, he caught a signal. A voice crackled through the speaker. It was not alien. It was human. It said one word again and again. Resource. Leo's heart raced. He adjusted the dials. The voice was coming from a nearby direction, maybe 50 kilometers away. He heard it again, this time louder. Locate, secure, extract. Then silence. He turned off the radio and looked at Yura. She had heard it too. They both knew what it meant. Someone was looking for something. And they were close. The next day, a dark shape passed in the sky. It wasn't a warship. It was smaller, like a scout. It didn't stop, but it flew low, slow, and silent. Villagers looked up and whispered. Some thought it was a bird. Others thought it was a machine. Leo didn't speak. He just stared. The shape was going in the direction of the outpost where they had gathered parts. That night, Leo stayed awake with Yura. If they find it, he said, they'll come for more. Yura nodded. They'll come here. Leo stood up and pulled out his notebook. He flipped to a page filled with sketches of traps, smoke vents, signal blockers. We have to hide it better, he said, and we have to prepare the village. Over. The next few days, Leo trained the children to recognize strange sounds. He taught the farmers how to scatter metal shavings to confuse sensors. He built small alarms using wires and cans. He worked with the village guards to sharpen their spears and hide them beneath baskets. The people didn't fully understand, but they trusted him. Then 3 days later, a new shadow came. This one landed. It was a black ship with sharp wings and silent engines. It touched the ground just beyond the edge of the crops. 2 humans stepped out. They wore gray suits and black gloves. They walked slowly, scanning the land with glowing devices. The villagers watched from behind walls, holding their breath. Leo stood in front of the village gate. He wore a long coat to hide his tools. Yura stood beside him. The 2 humans saw them and approached. One of them spoke in clear words. We're looking for a power source. Unusual readings came from this area. Leo didn't move. He kept his face calm. "We are just farmers," he said. "No power source here." The humans didn't believe him. They looked past him into the fields. Their scanners beeped. One of them took a step forward. Leo dropped a small metal box from his coat. It hit the ground and exploded with a cloud of black smoke. The humans stepped back, coughing. The villagers began to bang drums and make loud noises. Confused and blinded, the strangers fell back toward their ship. The engines roared. The black ship lifted into the sky and disappeared into the clouds. The smoke cleared. The village was silent again. No one spoke. Leo turned to the others. "We only delayed them," he said. "They'll come again, stronger. We need to move the machine." That night, under cover of darkness, the villagers helped Leo move the machine into a new hiding place. They built a deep pit behind the old wells and covered it with rocks and plants. Wires were rerouted. Energy shields were placed. No signal. Escaped. The miracle that had saved them was now hidden from all eyes. The village returned to its quiet routine, but the air was no longer light. Children still laughed and crops still grew, yet a silent fear moved beneath every smile. The black ship had left, but it had not forgotten. Leo knew that. He spent most of his time near the new hiding spot. He checked the wires, the shields, and the vents twice a day. He trusted no one outside the village. Yura brought food and water to him each afternoon. She could see his worry, even when he tried to hide it. "You haven't slept," she said. Leo nodded. "I can't," he answered. "They might return at any time. If they find it again, they won't be so kind." Yura placed a blanket on his shoulders. "We're with you. You're not alone." That one sentence gave Leo the strength to keep going. Late one night, while most of the village slept, Leo heard a faint clicking sound near the outer fence. He froze. He turned off his lamp and crouched low. The sound came again, soft but clear. Someone was moving through the grass. Leo moved quickly, climbing a pile of scrap and grabbing a small scope. He scanned the area with steady hands. 2 figures crept along the edge of the fields. He jumped down and ran to Yura's home. She opened the door before he could knock. "I heard it too," she said. "Let's wake the elders." Together, they moved silently from house to house, alerting the trusted few. Within minutes, 10 villagers stood hidden among the trees, armed with sharp tools, spears, and quiet breath. The figures drew closer. The moonlight revealed their shapes. They weren't human. These were machines. 4-legged, sleek, with eyes that glowed red and bodies made of black steel. They didn't walk, they crawled. They scanned the crops with thin beams of light. One of the elders whispered, "Scout bots." Leo nodded. "They're not here for peace. They're mapping us." One of the villagers stepped forward, ready to attack. Leo stopped him with a hand signal. "Not yet," he whispered. The bots crawled deeper into the village edge. One moved toward the well. Leo's eyes widened. "They're close to the hiding place," he said. The group had to act. Leo raised his hand and clicked a small metal device in his palm. A series of high-pitched whistles rang from the trees. The bots froze. Then they turned toward the sound. A second later, a net dropped from above, sparking with electricity. One of the bots sparked and fell. The others scrambled. Villagers ran from both sides, throwing nets and swinging metal rods. The fight was fast and sharp. Sparks flew. One villager was thrown back by a shock but got up again. Within minutes, all the bots were destroyed. The only sounds left were breathing and the quiet crackle of broken metal. Leo crouched near one of the damaged bots and examined it. The pieces were fresh. The tech was advanced, too advanced for normal scouts. He opened a side panel and pulled out a glowing chip. "This sent a signal," he said. The moment it touched the ground. Yura looked at him. "They know now," she whispered. "They'll come soon." Leo stood slowly and nodded. That morning, the village held a meeting. Every adult, every elder, every farmer came. Leo stood before them with the chip in hand. "They will return," he said. "Not scouts, not drones, real soldiers with weapons. We cannot fight them. We must decide now." The crowd was silent. Then an old woman stood. "We don't run," she said. "This is our home." Others nodded. But fear was in their eyes. Leo took a breath. "Then we don't run. We prepare. But not with spears and fire. With mind, with machines, with traps. We turn our junk into armor, into shields, into smart tools." The villagers looked at one another. Then one by one, they stepped forward. "Teach us," they said. "We'll learn." Hope returned to their faces. The days that followed were filled with motion. Leo worked with builders to create decoys. He rewired old drones to act as guards. He showed farmers how to turn cooking pots into sonic bombs. The children built alert systems from cans and wires. The elders blessed each tool with their old songs. The village changed. It was no longer only a farm. It was becoming a fortress. Asterisk. The sun rose over a village that no longer looked weak. Every fence had been rebuilt with stronger metal. Every hut was now lined with sensors and silent alarms. Beneath the crops, wires ran like hidden veins, connecting to buried traps and power lines. From above, it still looked like a farming village. But inside, it had become something else. Leo stood on a rooftop, adjusting a small camera connected to a rusted antenna. Yura climbed up and handed him a drink. "The crops are holding," she said, "but the soil is starting to heat." Leo nodded. "The energy left in the ground is fading again. If we survive what's coming, we'll have to restart the machine. Soon." He didn't speak of what would happen if they didn't survive. That night, a red light blinked on Leo's watch. He looked up at the sky. A black shadow moved across the stars, slow and wide. It was not scouting. It was landing. He rang a bell made from hollow pipes. Its deep echo rolled through the village. Doors opened. People moved. Each person went to their station. The time had come. A large ship touched down just beyond the old fields. The doors opened with a hiss. This time, soldiers stepped out. 10 of them, human, tall, armed, and wearing armor with glowing edges. They walked forward slowly, without fear. Their leader held up a scanner. It pointed toward the village. Power detected. Artificial growth signature confirmed. "Move in." The villagers didn't run. They stood in silence at the edge of the fields. Spears at their sides, tools hidden in their sleeves. The leader raised a hand. "We're here for the device. Step aside." Leo stepped forward, hands empty. "You can't have it," he said. "It's not yours." The soldier looked amused. "Boy, do you even know what it's worth?" Leo didn't blink. "I know what it's done. It saved these people. Fed them, gave them hope." The soldier took a step closer. "Hope doesn't matter. Survival does. We have orders. We take the tech or we burn everything." The villagers didn't move. But the air around them grew tighter. Silent tension stretched between both sides. The soldier raised his hand to signal attack. Before it dropped, a blast of sound hit from beneath his feet. A sonic trap hidden under the soil exploded with a deafening wave. The soldiers stumbled. 2 fell. The others raised weapons. But the villagers had already moved. Nets launched from rooftops. Smoke poured from barrels. Confusion spread. Leo ducked behind a wall and activated the second layer of traps. Magnetic pulses jammed the soldiers' visors. Their lights blinked. Their guns powered down. Yura led a group through the side path, hitting each soldier with stun rods made from old engine coils. The air filled with sparks and shouts. The village had become a maze of resistance. Within minutes, 7 soldiers were down. The rest tried to retreat, but their ship was blocked by falling debris triggered by Leo's signal. The leader, now cornered, raised his hands. "You'll pay for this," he growled. Leo stepped forward, holding a sonic blade made from scrap. "No," he said. "We already paid, with hunger, with fear. You don't get to take what we built." The villagers tied the remaining soldiers and dragged them to the edge of the field. The ship was stripped of weapons and marked with warning signs. Leo sent a signal through the same frequency that had first picked up the scouts. A short message: "Come again, and we fight again. We are not alone." Then he cut the line. The sky cleared as the ship was pushed into the distance. The villagers stood together, tired but proud. They had defended their home, their future, their lives. Yura hugged Leo tightly. "We did it," she said. Leo looked at the stars above. "For now," he answered. "But we need to think ahead." He turned toward the hidden machine. "It's time to make it better, stronger, smarter, and safer." The village stood quiet after the battle. Broken weapons lay scattered near the fences. The air still smelled like smoke and charged metal, but inside every home there was peace. No one cried, no one feared. They had stood their ground and won. Now it was time to rebuild, not just the village, but the future. Leo didn't rest. He returned to the hidden chamber beneath the old well and stared at the machine. Its panels were dusty. The vents were clogged. Wires had shifted during the last move. He sat down and pulled out his tools. His fingers were sore, but his mind was focused. He knew this would be his last upgrade. Yura joined him with a lantern. She watched as he worked, connecting new circuits and replacing old coils. "You've made something they can't stop," she said. Leo shook his head. "It's not about stopping them," he said. "It's about giving people something to live for. Something they can protect and grow." Yura nodded and handed him a fresh power cell. The machine lit up slowly. The blue light turned into gold. A soft hum returned, deeper and stronger than before. Leo stepped back and watched. The energy spread through the chamber, then reached the hidden cables that led to the fields. Outside, the soil began to warm. The plants reacted instantly. Leaves opened, roots dug deeper. The cycle had begun again. Above ground, villagers cheered. The elders raised their hands to the sky and sang their old songs. The children danced in circles, holding bright fruit in their hands. One of the farmers hugged Leo and said, "You didn't just bring us food. You brought us back from the edge." Leo smiled but stayed quiet. He didn't need praise. He just needed to know they were safe. Later that day, the council of elders gathered. They invited Leo and Yura to speak. The oldest among them stood and said, "You are not from our world, but today you belong to it. We offer you a place among us, not just as a builder, but as a protector." Leo looked at Yura. She smiled and nodded. He turned back to the elders and bowed his head. As the seasons passed, the village grew. Not just in crops, but in strength. New homes were built. New tools were created. Other villages nearby heard of the miracle machine and sent envoys. Some came with gifts. Some came with fear, but all left with respect. No one tried to take what Leo had made. They saw it was protected by more than walls. Leo taught others how to build, not just machines, but ideas. He opened a school beneath a large tree and used chalk on scrap metal to draw circuits. Children learned how wires carried power and how energy could shape the land. Yura helped translate his words into the village language. The two of them worked as one, day after day. In time, others began making their own versions of the machine. Some worked, some failed, but Leo never stopped helping. He believed in teaching, not controlling. The power wasn't in the machine itself. It was in the minds that used it wisely. He told every student the same thing: build with care, share with heart, defend with courage. Years passed. The war in the stars grew quiet. The world slowly healed. Leo grew taller, stronger, but he never left the village. It was his home. Now, the place that had saved him when he was nothing but a lost boy with a bag of broken wires. The place that had shown him trust when he had nothing to offer in return. One clear morning, Leo walked to the edge of the field. He looked at the green hills and the shining sun. Yura stood beside him. "Do you think we'll ever need to fight again?" she asked. Leo thought for a moment. "Maybe," he said. "But if we do, we'll be ready. Not just with traps or tools, but with people who know what they're fighting for." He picked up a fruit from the nearest plant and handed it to her. She took a bite and smiled. The wind passed through the tall stalks, rustling the leaves in soft waves. It carried the sound of a village that once starved but now thrived. A village that stood because a boy believed trash could become something greater than survival. The story of the machine lived on not as a weapon, but as a beginning.